Hello, Sarah Sabin, executive and team coach here in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I am thrilled to have with me today Dave Wattel, who is CEO of Rising Cloud and Multus Medical and managing attorney at Wattel and York Attorneys. Dave, welcome to the show today, and I'd love for you to briefly introduce yourself to my audience.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Dave Wattel. Live in Phoenix, Arizona, the heat of the desert. I am very actively involved in each of my companies. Rising Cloud being a cloud compute alternative to other hyperscalers like AWS alike. Multus Medical, an AI software company that stacks MRI slices and creates a true and accurate presentation so that patients, insurance companies alike can understand MRI results. And then finally, I have a law firm that is in my name, and thus I continue to oversee some of its operations on a go-forward basis.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourself, Dave. And I would love to know more about your journey. So, did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or was it a realization that you came to?
Really, it had to do with problem solving. In my law practice years and years ago, we had a problem here in the States about obtaining what we call high-end medical care on a lien or a letter protection basis. So people could not get surgeries where they really needed them subsequent to injury events. So I created a company that provided a solution for that. Then I noticed that that company was having a hard time presenting objective information relating to MRI. So we created Multus Medical to solve that problem. And then Multus Medical was way overpaying for EC2 instances for our cloud compute needs and created a solution for that problem. So all of my entrepreneurial outcome has really been based upon identifying problems in existing situations for me and setting out to solve those problems.
And with having three businesses that you're actively involved in at the moment, how do you split your time and how do you manage to have some kind of balance?
So as it relates to the law firm, though it's not self-sufficient per se, I have continuity of staff, have many people who've been with me 15, 20, 30 years in total. They are perfectly capable of handling the firm sufficiently, though with some of my direction. As it relates to Multus Medical, again, we've got top-notch staff that are capable of handling the tasks that they're set out to handle on a day-in, day-out basis. Rising Cloud is really the major impetus from a time standpoint for me these days, and I dedicate most of my time and effort to that particular project.
And I think the point that I'd like to draw on there is that obviously you couldn't manage to do everything that you do if you didn't have the team behind you to support you. And obviously having people that have been with you over that length of time is also testament to how you lead as well. So I'd love to know more about how you define strong leadership and how you see it impacting your businesses.
Yeah, so it's really a simple philosophy. I grew up in the restaurant business, and the manager or owner of a restaurant has to do every task in case somebody doesn't show up. And every task is vital and important to that restaurant's survival. And as a result, I have utilized that type of philosophy in my businesses. That is, everybody has an important and meaningful task or meaningful tasks in the particular companies. Everybody's tasks, though may from time to time actually seem tedious or not very important, but that's not the case, because if one thing fails, then everything fails. So making sure that everybody understands that every work every responsibility, every effort that they put forth, even though they may be doing something menial, is very meaningful. And by having everybody understand that they have self-worth and self-accomplishment and are given the latitude with which to achieve in the workplace, they will set out and strive to handling all of those tasks in an exemplary manner.
Mm. And that reminds me of the story of the man that went into NASA, asked a janitor, "What is it that you do here?" And he said, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. And it's something that comes up quite a bit, the mission-driven culture, where everyone sees the bigger impact of what they're doing rather than getting stuck in the tedium or granular detail of what they're doing. So I'd love to know more about how you really filter out this sense of mission within your companies.
So when I hire people, I really only look for three things. One is they're motivated. Okay, so if somebody's motivated, then they're going to set a plan and execute on that plan. Two is that they're intelligent. If they're intelligent, then we can teach them anything. And the third, that they've got a fairly solid foundation as it relates to the language that we're speaking or the language that we're writing, particular to that business. So we can teach everything else. So if you have a motivated, intelligent, and a well-skilled language individual, they're going to succeed at whatever task or whatever job you set out for them.
Mm. Yeah, that's really interesting because, when you're thinking about recruitment, quite a few of the entrepreneurs that I've spoken to said they've learned over the course of many years doing what they do, what is actually really important when they're thinking about recruitment. And it's not about a resume, it's a set of values and an attitude that is the most important thing.
Yeah, and in fact, somebody may be coming with a skill set that of the way of doing things, but they're not necessarily the way that we want them being done in our organizations. And as a result, we have to retool and we have to have them reset, so to speak. So sometimes it may be better to have somebody with less foundation. But again, if they've got those three qualities, the motivation, the intelligence, and the human language skill set, then we're off to the races.
So if you think about your companies today, what's the most pressing thing on your mind at the moment, challenge wise?
Well, Rising Cloud is, and I really can't stand the term startup, but I guess any company that's 10 years or newer is defined as a startup these days. Startups have an issue with credibility. So getting over the credibility hump, helping people understand, hey, listen, we do have the next best thing since sliced bread. You got to, quote, trust me on it. Getting companies and individuals to trust that really that's the case is a hard thing. So you try to get yourself aligned with other companies that have a trust factor already in place. And then that lends its way towards the credibility that you're after. And that's really the biggest hurdle that I'm facing specific to Rising Cloud, at least at present.
So to check my understanding, your way of getting over the trust or credibility hump is to partner with companies that already have that established trust and credibility. Is that right?
Yeah, and you can make a warm referral that way. It's listen, I have let's say I have a need for a knee surgery. I don't just go, and now I'm going to date myself. I just don't go to the yellow pages, or I don't just go to Google and I type in, orthopedic surgery, but rather I call upon somebody that I trust to say, hey, do you know somebody that you trust? So that trust extends from the individual that we trust. So thus, the reason why we go with large companies or try to associate ourselves with large companies, because they already have that trust factor in place. Is it warranted? Maybe, maybe not. Hopefully it is. But if it is, again, those warm leads, that trust to trust pass on, I think is invaluable.
And I think it's an oft overlooked thing, especially at the beginning of a business, to think about your network and to think about who you know and to go there first. And I sometimes feel like there's some kind of pride barrier that prevents people from actually doing that when it is the thing that's going to get the momentum at the start of a business.
Yeah, people don't seem to understand. And again, I'm going to date myself. I'm going to use the term Rolodex, which is old school. But their Rolodex has huge value. I've been in business for 35 plus years, and I've spent countless hours developing out my Rolodex or my contact list. That has huge value. The question is, how do we seize upon all of those relationships that we've developed? People want to help others, especially people that like you. They're willing to go the extra mile to help you. So it's not a bad thing to reach out to those that you may have helped along the way and created a bond or a relationship with and say, listen, now's my time. Hey, can you give me a hand? And you'd be surprised as to how much value you will get from those individuals that you've developed those relationships with over the years.
And I think that point, when I first had a conversation with you, you said, I speak to anyone that reaches out to me, which is fairly unusual nowadays, but I think it's testament to what you just said, which is you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I years and years ago as a teenager, I did some sales, and the expectation was you didn't close on 90% of your sales, you didn't close on 100% of your sales, you closed on what, less than 10% of your sales.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to see everybody that you reach out to, or everybody that you talk to, or everybody you communicate with, from a written standpoint. You've got to get through so many to be able to have a success. And you have to be able to recognize that the other 9 that aren't successes are leading you to the one that is a success. You don't know of the 10 in advance which one is going to be the success. So if you don't take all 10, you're going to eliminate the one success. It doesn't make a lot of sense to eliminate all 10 just for the sake of saying, you know what, I'm going to fail on 9 out of the 10, because you've now cost yourself the one that is the victory.
Yes, really wise words indeed, especially because the human mind is literally wired to focus on the negative. Oh God, these 9 ones have gone terribly, but we don't tend to focus as much on the one thing that went really well.
No, and there's an old television commercial here in the States that deals with shampoo, I believe it was. And she told 2 friends, and so on and so on. That's the whole idea. It cascades. You reach out to one person or 2 people, that net becomes very, very expansive over time. But if you don't start the net, you don't start with the 2, you don't get the end.
Yeah. So I'd love to know more about how you've invested in yourself as a leader, because obviously you have been an entrepreneur for 35 years now. And at least I think of leadership and entrepreneurship as a constantly evolving thing. So how do you make sure that you grow and evolve every day?
Well, the starting point is to recognize, hey, listen, I don't know it all. And in fact, there are other viewpoints that are as good, if not better than mine, and I want to be exposed to them. And one of the ways you can do that, or one of the ways that I do that, is by being a active participant in a CEO alliance. So you don't want like-minded people. You don't want yes people, but rather you want people that are critical thinkers, that are coming to your group or your life from different walks of life. By doing so, you're getting different viewpoints, different vantage, and as a result, you're able to learn and incorporate those into your daily life. Secondarily, and more importantly, really is they probably have encountered an issue that either you have on your plate at present or potentially may be in the future, and they've been there and done that. So why try to recreate and reinvent the wheel? Rely upon somebody who's already solved the problem, and you're probably ahead of the game.
I think so. I want to reiterate 2 points here. The support network and also the fact that other people are going through the same things that you are going through. Because I hear a lot that, you know, leadership is lonely, entrepreneurship is lonely, but it's not really, because we all as humans and as a subset of humans go through a similar set of issues. So it gives you that different perspective. It makes you feel less alone, and as you said, you realize that for every little thing you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No, and there's something called the 5,000 hour rule, which we've all read about, that you don't become proficient in anything until you have 5,000 hours under your belt. So I don't have 5,000 hours under my belt on every issue, but other people do. And if I can find those people and surround them, or have them actively involved in my life, then again, I'm much more informed about certain issues than I would be otherwise.
Mm. And I think that applies for a mentorship group such as the CEO Alliance, but also within the teams that you build a company. You're not the expert in everything, so you need people that are either experts or do become experts in your weaker areas.
Yeah, so we should all recognize that we can be both mentor and mentee at the same time.
Mm.
If we're so conceited in our beliefs that we know it all, then we really know very little. So if we recognize that we can learn from those that learn from us, boy, we're ahead of the game.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, this reminds me of another conversation I had where the lady I was talking to said, I literally learn from people from different walks of life all the time, because they're teaching me something that I just didn't know about, whether that's health or relationships or whatever it is. I think there's always something to learn from everyone.
Yeah, what you don't know, right? You don't know what to ask what you don't know. But if somebody else knows something and shares it with you, now you've opened your eyes. You've got something new on your plate, and it's probably going to benefit you in some walk of your life.
Mm. So, in terms of looking ahead over the next 12 months, what are your plans for the coming year, and how do you envision, let's focus on Rising Cloud because that's your major concern at the moment, how do you envision that growing and evolving?
So we've got some key personnel that we're bringing in to bolster the team, which is going to tax me a little bit more, but just the same, now's the time. We're at that critical mass where now is the time. We've developed out some new software, some new solutions that are really, really cutting edge, that are in great need. And as a result, now's the time to seize the moment, so to speak.
Seize the day. Exciting times. Final question. If you could go back in time and see your 20-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give them?
So the narcissist that my wife claims I am, I would slap him and say, don't be a narcissist, and exercise some humility, be humble, and be open-minded in every regard, and recognize that each day you really know less than you thought you knew. And by doing so and opening your ears and eyes and closing your mouth, you're probably going to accelerate your path in a more effective and probably a quicker means than the path I probably actually took.
And I think the saying goes, what we have two ears and one mouth, and we should therefore we should do double the amount of listening and talking, or something along those lines.
Yeah, God makes us in interesting ways, though. Some of us want to talk incessantly and never shut up, and that's certainly something that I have to control.
Well, at least you're aware of it, and awareness is the first step. Thank you so much, Dave, for this conversation today. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. And for my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation too. If you would like to be involved in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series, please do reach out to me. Thank you, and bye for now.